Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. It's round 2 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, one of the IMSA development series that is effectively training sports car drivers for their later careers. We're at Lexington, Ohio for a circuit that has been challenging drivers since 1962. Action areas at the keyhole, the braking area downhill into the right-hand turn 4, and then out of the final complex, the carousel, and over the short blast across the start-finish line. This is the second of 2 races this weekend. 17 Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo cars with a new body kit for 2018. And they look the absolute picture. At the moment, the stillness of the morning has yet to be disturbed because those V10 engines are right now silent. But that will change in just a few moments' time as we get them fired up and get ready to go racing for 50 minutes, as I get to say, drivers, start your Lamborghini engines. Engines are started. Jeremy Shaw alongside me, John Hindhaugh in the IMSA radio booth. And here's how they line up.
17 cars for today's second round of the 2018 Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Everybody running the same car, as John Hindhaugh was saying. 4 different categories of drivers, however. Starting at the back, there's the LB Cup contenders who are just starting out in the sport. There's the AM class, the Pro-Am, and then the Pros, which normally would be the front of the field, but we'll get to that in a moment. So let's run down the starting order. Starting from the back is car number 5 for one of the AM contenders for P1 Motorsports. In car number 5 is Jonathan George. Ahead of him on the grid, also for P1 Motorsports, another AM contender, Ben Albano, in car number 77. 15th on the grid is Sheena Monk, who's one of the LB Cup contenders, just her second weekend of racing for Wayne Taylor Racing. Row 7 of the grid on the outside, an AM car, Martin Barkey for PPM. Alongside him, the pole sitter in LB Cup, Mark Proto, father of Taylor, who's farther up the grid, much farther up the grid, for US Racetronics in car number 88. Row 6, the AM car of Cameron Castles for Wayne Taylor Racing, and his teammate, but running in the pro category, Jonathan Chicotto in car number 1, to be sharing that car with the defending series champion, Trent Hinman. 10th position on the grid, an AM car of Brian Thenis in car number 17 for US Racetronics. And another PPM car number 47 in the Pro-Am division. Patrick Liddy will start number 47, handing over later to Dylan Murcott. Row 4 of the grid on the outside is a number 2, that's Ryan Hardwick for Dream Racing Motorsport in the AM class. And on the AM pole, 7th on the grid, car number 09 for US Racetronics. His 11th AM pole of his career, making a return to Lamborghini Super Trofeo this season from Canada, Damon Oakey. 6th on the grid, Jonathan Somerton will start car number 79 for P1 Motorsports, alongside him Brandon Godovic in the Precision Performance Motorsports PPM, car number 46, both of those 2 pro cars. Front 2 rows of the grid each have a Pro-Am and a Pro. 4th on the grid is a Pro-Am race leader from yesterday, JC Perez in car number 71 for P1 Motorsports. And for Change Racing, the overall race winner yesterday, in car number 29, it'll be Corey Lewis starting that car. Onto the front row, the pro car of Taylor Proto, an excellent run for the youngster in just his second year of racing for US Racetronics in car number 50. This is his the pro pole. He had one Pro-Am pole last season on his way to winning the World Finals in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in the Pro-Am division with Eduardo Piscopo. That'll be Taylor Proto then on the outside on the front row. And on the front row of the grid, from Scotland originally, running in the Pro-Am class this weekend, car number 10 is Stephen McAleer for Wayne Taylor Racing Prestige Performance.
That's your 17 cars. Out of the final carousel and left-hander and across the finish line, and the race is now started. The countdown has begun from 50 minutes. Why are they not going fast? You're asking yourself. I know. because we haven't yet seen the green flag. Effectively right now, we're under a full course caution. Well, actually, it's about a third of a course caution, because we don't start these cars until the run down from the keyhole at turn 2, through the kink at turn 3, and downhill into the right-hander at turn 4. Poleman on the right-hand side as far as the drivers are concerned. Stephen McAleer, the Scotsman, in the dark grey from the second place car of Taylor Proto in the 50. So 10 and 50 on your front row, Wayne Taylor Racing and the 50 of US Racetronics, two of the big teams in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Now coming to the green flag. It's a perfect lineup. All of the cars in 2x2 rows. McAleer controlling the field, waiting to see the green flag, which waves now and gets onto the right-hand pedal. Beautiful start. Nobody breaking ranks too early, and McAleer gets the jump. On the outside, Taylor Proto slightly hung out to dry there, and that's allowed Corey Lewis to come down his right-hand side, the inside, for turn number 4, which is effectively the first racing corner. And with 48.5 minutes on the clock, we are actually racing clean so far. I'm trying to find something wood that I can knock on here at the moment as they come side by side under the Acura Bridge at Mid-Ohio. And underway racing for the second round of the 2018 Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Everyone's sorting them out. McAleer has made his escape down through Thunder Valley for the first time. Jeremy Shaw, that is near to a perfect start, as you can see. Look it up in the driver's handbook and play that video. In stark contrast to yesterday, brilliant start by Stephen McAleer. That's exactly how these races should be started. That's the experience of Stephen McAleer. Made a great first lap there. He's got a good lead already over Corey Lewis in second place. Corey Lewis, a former world champion in these cars, but there's also a great outside pass there by car number 46, Brandon Godovic, to get past JC Perez. Brandon Godovic, who was finished a very, very close second yesterday, had a tremendous charge to the end of the race in car number 46. Yeah, has benefited from some problems further up the field, but you've got to be in it, and he was certainly putting himself in the right place. Now, this is a pit stop race, so the cars will be heading into pit lane for a mandatory stop, but we'll take you through how that happens as we get to it. For now, let's just, along with the big crowd here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for this IMSA Festival weekend. IMSA back here for the first time since 2012. Let's just, along with this big crowd, enjoy the sights and the sounds of these V10 Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo cars, looking even more aggressive than they did last year. New body kit, new aero, a little periscope on the top of the engine cover, engine mounted amidships, of course, in these cars, which helps them produce a tiny bit more power than the... Oh, and off goes the 47. That's the Liddy car, and he's gone around one of our new drivers to the championship and just lost it. Maybe the Pirelli's just a little bit cold as he came through the kink and into the final sector of the circuit there. 620 horsepower these cars had last year. There's a bit more this year. And these cars are not the easiest to drive. You have to have full concentration. Now, I don't think Liddy hit the guardrail on drivers right there, but my goodness, if he wasn't awake before, he will be now. Just got a little bit anxious on the throttle pedal, didn't hit the curb, but then gets on the brakes. The grass very wet after a big downpour earlier on in the week, but just enough room for the Huracan to spin around without doing itself or its driver any issues. And that was Patrick Liddy, the 20-year-old from Pasadena, California, making his first start at this level. Done quite a bit of club racing, though, and did a very good job in qualifying yesterday to qualify among the top 10. But a little bit inexperienced there as a problem. McAleer. It is. It's McAleer, and he's lost a wheel. Again. We saw this. Yes, this is the other side. This is another one of the Wayne Taylor Racing cars. It was the one car that lost the right rear wheel, and McAleer, having made a brilliant start, has lost the left rear wheel, and he's out. That's just bizarre. Randy Solari will not get in that car. No, he won't. Extraordinary stuff. It was a winning position, potentially, for the #1 car, with Jonathan Cicotto being very quick in the second half of the race, and Stephen McAleer will be gutted. barely, in fact, not a look back at the car as he disappears. Now that is a real body blow for Wayne Taylor Racing and the Paramus dealer supported car.
I've had a bit of run around the paddock this last night and this morning, and it's been a sort of relatively common problem with the wheels coming off these cars. There's different materials on the wheel nut and the hub assembly, and the sort of expansion rates are different. Generally, it happens later in the stint, not early on. It's happened an awful lot, particularly to Wayne Taylor Racing. I was speaking to Brandon Godovic, who now is he and his father Rick now run the PPM team, Precision Performance Motorsports, new team this season, moving over from the NASCAR stock car ranks, super enthusiastic. And Brandon was telling me in 3 years running these cars, they've had no problems whatsoever. But Wayne Taylor Racing and Prestige Performance, they've had a huge amount of problems.
Well, 2 in 2 years on 2 different cars for Wayne.
The team this morning, they say they're going to make sure that torquing on those wheels is done properly. But once again, it's caught them out.
There will be no attempt to remove the former leading car, and that means it will stay just on driver's right to turn 6 until the checkered flag. And
well that's because
Stephen did absolutely the right thing.
Yes.
And very experienced driver, didn't want to ruin anybody else's race. But that, after a brilliant start, then has left Corey Lewis in the 29 in the lead. That's the Change Racing Lamborghini. Madison Snow started the race yesterday and drove very, very well indeed. Corey Lewis will feel that this is a bit of racing karma after the bumping and boring that took him out of the race yesterday. Was not a happy bunny after the race on Saturday, and was having to be just cooled down a little bit before he got back into the car this morning. But now he's got clear track ahead of him. He's in the best possible position. Taylor Proto is about 3/4 of a second behind him in the number 50 car. That's the US Racetronics car in second place.
Yeah, and it was Taylor Proto who set the fastest lap last round. For someone of his inexperience, this is just his second year of racing. It's remarkable, very, very impressive.
Leading Pro-Am now, the 71 P1 Motorsports. Loris Spinelli started the race, yes, and another wheel's off. There's another wheel off on the circuit. Now, who does that belong to? This time, it's a right rear, I think, that's come off a car. Now, that has scooted across the track again at the 5-6 area. It's rolling back into the middle of the circuit. Oh my goodness, this is very dangerous indeed. 42 minutes to go of the 50. It's rolling off the circuit back down towards turn 6 and falls over, thankfully, on the grass. It's the 7 car. Yeah. It's the 7 car. Sheena Monk.
Another Prestige Performance Wayne Taylor Racing car. That is just incredible.
That's now 3 in 2 days in 2 races. Sheena Monk in that 7 car in the LB Cup for the least experienced drivers, the Paramus supported Huracan Super Trofeo. Now she has gone straight on down the hill. Let's see if we get a full course yellow. Yes, we are going to get a full course yellow for this one. And as Sheena came out of turn number 6, check that, turn 5, the wheel parted company right rear, as I thought, and disappeared. Now the wheel nut's already gone, so this is not a failure of a wheel. It's not pulled through the center, and that wheel, well, you've heard me say this before, it's never a good day when a part of your car is doing a different lap time from the main body of it.
No,
and Sheena sits in the car.
Fine line, fine time to leave me loose wheel, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. I'll get the guitar out later, Jeremy. Don't give up your day job.
Thank you very much.
Sheena deciding that the car is the safest place to stay. The wheel has rolled back across the track to drivers right, and we do have a full course yellow. Pits are closed, and we will see the very lovely white Huracan safety car. The Georges Dubois safety car will be out on the track to pick up Corey Lewis. Now, Corey was trying to build a bit of a lead from Taylor Proto and Jonathan Somerton, but
he wasn't able to, because the last 2 laps of the race fastest laps were set by Taylor Proto in second place.
Wherever you are around the world, you can follow the series Lamborghini Super Trofeo via the IMSA app, live TV, and live IMSA radio coverage, as well as details of the teams, timing and scoring. It's absolutely free to download, and just go to your app store, search IMSA, IMSA, and it will come up. We'll never ask you for any money, and you'll be able to stay just a couple of finger taps away on your favourite smart device of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series and all of the other IMSA series, up to and including the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Well, Jeremy, I don't know what people are going to think about this. The spectators robbed of a little bit of a run now, though this will get everybody close back up together, whether you're listening in on IMSA radio around the circuit via the app or actually leaning over the fence side. Sheena is out of her car. She's fine. Did a good job of getting the car off the circuit, and she'll want to know what happened, because that happened very quickly indeed, as it did for her teammate Stephen McAleer. And it's the same part of the circuit through 5 and 6, just coming over the rise at the left-hander at 5 and dropping down towards the right-hander at 6. .33 in the pit lane, and that's lost a wheel as well.
I'm not sure, has it lost a wheel, or was it just bringing in
well, it looks to be sitting down on the left rear.
No, I was watching it.
Well, the pits are closed. Yes, right rear gone on the 33. I thought it was sitting down. That's another Wayne Taylor racing car.
And they brought the #1 car in as well, so that's
precautionary.
Yeah, I would think so, because #1 car was the only one that hadn't happened so far in this race. He's into pit lane as well.
Well, the pits are closed right now, so they can't actually work on the car. They're going to drop off the lap. Nothing else that they could do for the 33, because that car had already lost its wheel for Cameron Castles. The one has come in as well with Jonathan Cicotto. Now, Jonathan was the one who lost the wheel yesterday, and they're out. They're out of the car.
Well, I'm sure that's more precautionary, erring on the side of safety. You don't want to have a wheel fall off at a wrong place on this track and have a huge accident. So that's just bizarre.
For all 4 Wayne Taylor racing cars this weekend.
And apparently, I'm told, no one else has had a problem in any other teams this weekend. It's extraordinary.
And Jonathan Cicotto will feel a little aggrieved, I'm sure.
Snake bitten. I mean, that's
he was mega in the early part of the week. We had difficult conditions here at Mid-Ohio, Jeremy, with wet weather. The cars tested on Thursday. We were watching that from trackside. They looked and sounded fantastic. Cicotto was brilliant in the car, and I was marking him out as one of the stars of this weekend.
And I was, particularly after last night. I met him last night in the Lamborghini hospitality area, super impressed. I mean, 17 years of age, going on 25. I mean, super mature, really fine young man, very, very impressive. Not done an awful lot of racing, really, but he's got a great pedigree, of course, and he's clearly a guy to watch in the future.
Very, very odd. I do notice, by the way, that Jeremy was the one that got the invitation to the Lamborghini hospitality.
I kind of invited myself.
Mine must have got lost in the book. Oh, really? Oh, thank you. No wheels fell off during FP, free practice, qualifying, or on the test day. Just in racing conditions. I don't know what's been done different, if anything, but what I do know is that Wayne Taylor's organisation will be looking at that to see if there was anything different done.
Yeah, well, they had a bunch of those problems last year, I can tell you that. Not all in the races, but and the last couple of years, well, I was actually talking to Shinya Michimi, who's now driving for the PPM team, sharing number 46 car with Brandon Godovic, and he had some problems when that championship-winning season a couple of years ago. That was also for the Prestige Performance Wayne Taylor Racing team. So they've had a bunch of problems there. I can't imagine what it is. It's really, really bizarre. But talking to Shinya Michimi, making his return to the sport this season, he wasn't able to get a ride together last year. He was talking to him, and he was telling me for some reason he thought people had got the impression that he was a paid Lamborghini driver, that he was bringing that it wasn't a problem for him to find the money to go racing. Well, it is, and he wasn't, but he's now been given an opportunity by the Precision Performance Motorsports team, which, by the way, is extremely ambitious, and they already have one GT3 Lamborghini Huracan, and they are planning on doing tipping the toe in the water in this year's IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship with a view to running at least one car in 2019. So a very ambitious team. They're well organised. There are a lot of really good people on that team, and as we saw yesterday, all of their cars running very strongly indeed. Brandon Godovic currently driving the number 46 car in the 4th position. So we've got 4 pro cars at the front right now. It's Corey Lewis in car number 29, Taylor Proto in car number 50, Jonathan Summerton making a return to racing this season in car number 79, and car number 46, that is Brandon Godovic. Then the Pro-Am leader, JC Perez in car number 71, who led most of the race yesterday with his teammate did, Loris Spinelli, and then JC Perez was leading after the pit stops until he got punted from behind by Corey Lewis, which punctured a tyre.
34 minutes to go, so that's 4 minutes to the opening of the pit stop window. The pits are still closed. The Wayne Taylor cars have not moved in the pit lane, and I don't think they're going to retake the track. There will be a bit of soul searching going on down at Wayne Taylor Racing. Yep. This is a big effort for them. 4 cars in this championship, and a bit of, I mean, great, because it's a bit of a tarantara to get the WTR team in, who are running works programs in the WeatherTech series, and they'll be looking at their procedures. That's all I can say. I'm not going to speculate. I mean, you put the wheels on, you torque them up probably with an air bottle or a nitrogen bottle in the paddock beforehand, but it's absolutely standard operational procedure to put the big torque wrench on and hit it till it clicks. Is the calibration off? Is there a problem with the regulator on the air or nitrogen gun? I don't know, but that's the sort of thing that will have to be being looked at. And I did notice yesterday that Wayne Taylor Racing did not retorque the wheels at the pit stops where other teams did.
No, not all of the teams did. That's
no,
sure.
not all of them did, but some did.
Very few, I believe, from walking around this morning.
P1 did. I definitely saw P1, and I think Racetronics did as well.
Okay, well, it certainly isn't anything that they do. They think they need to do.
No,
exactly.
Exactly.
And you know, speaking to the team this morning, I mean, they did have a bit of an inquisition last night.
I bet they did.
You know, they were pretty confident coming into this race.
Brilliant work by Track Services again, and a big thank you to all of our volunteers, whether they are marshals, flag marshals, track workers, recovery, and indeed all of our officials. Very efficient cleanup of Sheena Monk's Wayne Taylor Racing LB Cup Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo. The lights are off on the perfectly white and gorgeous Huracan safety car. Echoes of the Lamborghini Countach from back in the day. The field is under the control of Corey Lewis, our leader in the number 29 Change Racing. Lamborghini comes back to the green flag, which is shown for the restarts at the finish line, and a great restart from Corey Lewis, who pulls out 3, 4, 5 cars lengths on Taylor Proto in the 50 car in second. Summerton still third, and then Godovic. Watch out for JC Perez in the 71. He's lost a little bit of ground there in 5th position, and he's got a bit of pressure now from Damon Oakey, who was looking around the back. He's the leading AM runner in the blue car, the 09, but a copybook restart again from Corey Lewis. Had all that pressure, and he's done exactly the right thing. He will not be under any kind of attack, Jeremy, going down in the braking area for 4.
No, and that's exactly what happened at the initial start as well. I mean, that's the experience of Corey Lewis. He's got 21 starts already in this championship. He's got 5 wins to his name. He's a former champion in this class, a former world champion in 2015 in the Pro-Am category in Lamborghini. So he knows these cars inside out. Didn't drive them last year, but they're kind of fit like an old glove for him. So he's able to get right on it right away. But for Taylor Proto, who only started racing last season, and this is all he's done, is the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. In fact, he's done a lot of testing, but nothing else other than that. And to be running this well and running that fast before that full course caution, seriously impressive for Taylor Proto, the 20-year-old Englishman. And he's closed in again right now on this second lap of green. Yeah,
coming through past us, the gorgeous sound of the V10 as the pit window is open now. The leaders may not quite have had the opportunity to come in, so anybody down the field who wants to make an early pit stop could have stolen a march there, but I can't see anybody. No, they're all stopped or out on the circuit. Yep. 4 cars showing in the pits at the moment, and we had a couple of starting parks as well, didn't we, with Ben Albano and the number 5 as well, the Jonathan George P1 Motorsport cars. So nobody taking the opportunity there as the pit was opened at the end of that last lap. 10 minutes to get your driver change done. Classes this year include a requirement for certain of the classifications, Jeremy, to have 2 drivers, which is new for 2018.
Yeah, it is. The Pro and the Pro-Am classes, the 2 most experienced driver levels in this race, have to run 2 driver combinations. In the AM and LB Cup, you have the choice, 1 or 2. Whoops, there's a big slide there for the number 17 car. I think it was Brian Thienes getting really sideways, and now enables Ryan Hardwick to move into 2nd place in the AM class.
Red and white car, Brian Thienes loving this championship. Under pressure immediately as well from the 67 of Martin Barkey, the PPM Beverly Hills dealer supported car. Shea Holbrook will jump into that car in the second half of the race. And here's the first of the pit stops then. And that's Godovic that's come into the pits. JC Perez is already in there, but that car's had a problem, of course, let's not forget. So the Wayne Taylor cars sitting on their own. Thienes trying to build a lead. Oh,
has he got a left rear wheel?
Well, was it a puncture or a left rear wheel? Yes, you're absolutely right, going through 9, but he's continued. Yeah, but that looked very odd, the car just sliding away from underneath Brian Thienes. Now, the pit stops here do not seem to be going very quickly, and that's because there is a mandatory pit stop for time from coming into the pit lane to going out. The drivers and the teams call it the delta, but that basically means from when you trip the pit lane sensor to when you trip it on the way out, there is a minimum amount of time. It's up to the team to do that, as off goes the 67, Martin Barkey. We were just talking about him putting pressure on Brian Thienes. Well, the pressure has told on Martin, slippery on the grass coming down the hill from turn 5 to turn 6, and his Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo is the world's fastest and most expensive lawnmower for 5 or 6 seconds. He's got the car rolling again. That, in fact, was a little bit further round, was it? No, it was coming through 6, heading under the bridge, tried to have a look up the inside at 7. That didn't work, and that put him on the wrong side of the circuit. And again, he's very lucky indeed not to cannon into the tyres driver's left, but sneaked down through the gearbox, gently applied that huge power, and immediately decides it's time to come into the pits. Not a bad idea to get rid of the grass cuttings on the front of that number 67 PPM racing car. Shea Holbrook all ready to jump in with the distinctive black and light blue helmet. She'll help Martin out. Don't sit on... Oh, Martin slips over there. He's a bit shaken up. Takes the radio cord, plugs that in for Shea. You can't do that because it's right behind your head on the left-hand side, and then helps with the belts. That's perfectly allowed. No other work going on in the car. There's no fuel, no tyres required to be done in these pit stops.
That's right, and Martin Barkey, he was taking part yesterday, also took part yesterday in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge race. And he had a good run going there as well, actually, but loving driving this Lamborghini. He'd never driven one before this weekend, but absolutely having a blast at the wheel of this car. There's a new fastest lap of the race on this 14th lap, and once again, it's Taylor Proto, the second place car, the youngster, number 50, who sets it there, 1 minute 22.413. I am impressed.
Yes. This is a name that we're going to have to watch out for in the future, isn't it?
It is.
More pit stops now. Still waiting for Corey Lewis to bring the 29 car in. He continues to lead. Madison Snow yesterday fought a brilliant rearguard action, whilst in fact he was sitting in second position, being pressured by Trent Hinman. Hinman came in early to try and get off kilter. So Corey Lewis now has to put in qualifying lap after qualifying lap. The problem is that Taylor Proto is not being shaken at the moment. There's no need to bring Taylor Proto in because I don't think he's being slowed up by Corey Lewis. He might just be getting into the area now in that blue number 50 car where he feels he's losing a bit of lap time, and now they've got traffic ahead of them. This could be the time to come in the pits. Will the leader in second dive in the pits? Yes, the leader's in. I think that's smart, very smart indeed from Change Racing to bring that Lamborghini of the Carolinas supported car into the pit lane. All of the teams and cars have support from a particular dealer. In fact, there's a dealer championship as well. Lamborghini Charlotte on the side of the Change Racing Corey Lewis and Madison Snow car. Madison just gently puts himself in. And there you see the Change Racing guys are re-torquing the wheels. It's the big, long handle with the single lug nut socket on it. Then the guys go to work re-pressuring the tyres. They're just bleeding a little bit of air out because they will have got hot in that opening 30 minutes, 33 minutes or so of the race, even though they've been behind the safety car. So they're going to put them back down to what they believe is the right pressure for those tyres, and then as they heat up, the pressure will build in those tyres. The countdown clock being shown to Madison Snow, so he doesn't get too jumpy on the clutch, but as he pulled away, the clock gets spun onto the ground. Didn't lose a nanosecond there. There is a penalty if you go under the minimum pit stop time. Now, where does he come out? Taylor Proto still out there, by the way, and has put in a couple of decent laps. Last lap was a 1:22.7 for Proto, so that's pretty good. And now Taylor Proto is into the pits, right opposite our broadcast booth. The number 50, the blue Lamborghini Huracan, is in front of us. So now, have they got it? And again, the 50 crew now going to work as well with the torque wrench. So US Racetronics did it yesterday. They're doing it again. The torque wrench there, what happens is, just a couple of clicks, and what you're seeing the mechanic doing in the pit lane, he'll put the socket on the centre lug nut and then nice big long lever so that he can put pressure on, and it's set to a specific torque. When it hits that torque, it breaks the pressure and it clicks off. That's why you talk about a couple of clicks more torque, couple of clicks less torque. So as he pushes down on that nice long lever, doesn't have to push too hard, you preset that device so that it's set at whatever the torque specification for that centre lock wheel is, and that's why they've gone round to make sure that they are all torqued perfectly well, which means the wheel nut is tight on the wheel rim, pulling it on to the hub of that Lamborghini.
And we've now seen the pit stops completed, and with the number 2 car onto the pit lane, having completed his 16th lap. We've got a battle for the lead here. We've got Madison Snow now is out in front to just in car number 29. It's about 2 seconds ahead of Loris Spinelli in car number 71. Where has Taylor Proto come out? He's come out in 6th position. That's somewhat surprising because he's turning some very, very good laps. But the main reason for that is it was a great stop by Madison Snow. Yep. And Loris Spinelli is absolutely flying out there in 3 consecutive laps. He has set the fastest lap of the race in car number 71.
Hardwick in from the lead in the number 2 car. Ryan Hardwick for Dream Racing Motorsports, supported by the Atlanta Lamborghini dealership. And Ryan's on his own, isn't he? So he's in the AM category, so he stays in the car, but still has to have a mandatory pit stop. So I reckon Madison Snow will come round in the lead from Spinelli a couple of seconds back.
That's right.
And sneaking up into 3rd position.
Well, in actual fact, on the last lap, Spinelli did pass the man you're going to say, which is Carol Baz in car number 79.
Polish driver, yeah. Well, that was a very good lap by Spinelli and by Snow. They go across the line in front of us. Madison Snow in the white Lamborghini Huracan, 2nd place. 3rd is Carol Baz, the man who is new to racing in the United States, as Hardwick rejoins behind them. Baz, the Polish driver, very, very handy in karts down through the years. Was a works driver, and by that I mean he drove for a factory and was paid to go karting. Snow then leading out down into turn 4, dealt with the traffic no problem at all, as has Spinelli in second. Been very impressed by Spinelli as well in this first weekend here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the IMSA Development Series Lamborghini Super Trofeo for 2018. Through the twistier parts of the circuit, Shinji Mishimi back in the championship. Great to see him back after winning here a couple of seasons ago, and winning in fairly dominant fashion, to be honest. The cars have changed a wee bit, but he, I would assume, knows this track quite well.
No, never been here before.
Oh, really?
No.
Even though he was born in this neck of the woods, wasn't he?
Cincinnati, that's exactly right, but no, never been here before.
Well, that just goes to show that local knowledge isn't always local or knowledgeable. Just under 19 minutes to go. Pit stops completed for everyone who needs them. And Madison Snow has just under a second now to the second place car of Loris Spinelli. And Spinelli was outstanding yesterday, as was Snow. These two guys were starting the race yesterday. Further down the field, let's check through some of the classes. LB Cup being led by the number 8, Mark Proto, and now Paris Mullins in that car. Is Ryan Hardwick in the number 2 Dream Racing Motorsport. Good battle for Brian Theens and Dylan Murcutt on the circuit. Brian in the AM category, he's 3rd, and Dylan Murcutt 2nd in Pro-Am, because Loris Spinelli is leading that category, and that is for 8th position, and Brian holds on to it for the moment. Brian Thenis. And the red and white car holds on to that 8th position for US Racetronics. Getting a bit of air over the rise at turn 7 and 8. Front wheels just popping up off the ground, particularly when cars are following closely and they don't have the aero push and the downforce on those front wheels. Another fastest lap of the race from Loris Spinelli in second, and the gap is now, near as makes no difference, half a second. And at that point, forget about the stopwatch, because Spinelli effectively has got target acquired at the front of the field.
Very much so. 6 laps in a row, Loris Spinelli, since taking the wheel of this car, has set the fastest lap of the race. It's now down to a 1:21.140. Trying to find yesterday's result. The fastest lap yesterday was a 22.0, set by both himself and fractionally slower Madison Snow. So Loris Spinelli has reduced that margin by quite a long way, that standard by quite a long way.
Yeah, these two guys were impeccable and pretty much wheel perfect. It looks to me as though there's been a change or two to the Change Racing car, pun absolutely intended. Madison not having his hands quite as full. Now, in fairness, he started the car yesterday, so it was heavier, had more fuel, no refueling at the pit stop, so you start with the fuel to get you all the way through the 50 minutes. But Madison was doing a great job yesterday, just modifying his lines in the early part of the race, not necessarily taking the classic racing line. He favours up the keyhole, turn 2, taking a huge amount of pace into the first part of the corner, letting the car drift wide in the middle, and then squaring off the turn to get a really good exit. Now that's really smart, because what that does is allows him to get on the power earlier, because there's an overtaking spot at the bottom of the hill at turn 4. And at the moment, Loris Spinelli cannot get near to him to try that overtaking manoeuvre. And in fact, he can't even get into the draft, the hole in the air, the slipstream that the 29 car is making down that long back straight, where, by the way, there are getting on for 164 miles an hour through the speed trap, and still accelerating at that point. Round, call it 170 miles an hour, these cars are topping out at the fastest parts of the circuit, and you'll understand why this manufacturing championship is seen by many as right at the very top around the world in performance stakes, and it is growing all the way around the world with the European Series as well. and they'll be all Asia. They'll be brought together at the end of the year. Indeed, the last two championship rounds of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo for the USA will be held at the season finale, which is at Vallelunga in Italy. Fantastic circuit, one that I've not been to, but I once had a car that was called Vallelunga Red, and I always, after that, went to find out what the track looked like and went, wow, these cars around there'll be great.
I've only been to Vallelunga once, actually, and that was to watch Catherine Legge making her Formula One test debut for Minardi, actually, a few years ago. Just happened to be in Italy that weekend. Yeah, and Catherine, by the way, she is coaching Sheena Monk in this series. Sheena, unfortunately, out of the race already.
Yes, with one of the wheel problems for the Wayne Taylor Racing car. Leader in the AM category, Ryan Hardwick for Dream Racing, in a very striking two-tone blue Lamborghini, the number 2 car, heading through the S's over the top of 5 at the moment, and now down the hill. He's in relatively isolated circumstances at the moment. Shinya Michimi is ahead of him by a goodly margin, and he's got about 3 seconds at least on Damon Oakey, who actually in 6th position is his next competitor in the AM category, 5th and 6th there for the leading AM runners.
But having stayed out a couple of laps longer, Ryan Hardwick, he had a big slide somewhere early in the race, didn't he? But by staying out a couple of laps longer, turning some very good laps, he was the last driver to pit. He has made up a couple of positions, including now taking the lead, as you say, in the AM category. That's Ryan Hardwick. Again, he's another guy in just his 2nd year of racing. His last lap time was his best lap in this race, a 1:22.4. That's a really, really good lap. Meanwhile, up at front, Madison Snow, he's going faster and faster. The previous lap was within 0.03 of a second of that fastest lap of the race set the lap previous by Loris Spinelli in car number 71.
Should have said a little while ago, but the pit window had closed some time ago now. But as everyone had pitted who needed to, it didn't seem that important at the time. 1.5 seconds all of a sudden at the head of the field. Slight mistake by the driver of the number 17, Brian Thenis, sitting 3rd in the arm, and clipped the curb, and that's cost him a bit of speed down the long back straight, coming out the keyhole, down towards 4 now, and super piece of opportunist driving by Dylan Murcutt in the 47. The very menacing looking, almost flat black or dark grey charcoal coloured Lamborghini. And the 47 then, 2nd in Pro-Am at the moment to Lucas Spinelli, who's 2nd in the race. Now he is now up into 8th position.
Yeah, and that is Dylan Murcutt, who was one of the co-winners of last year's Continental Sports Car Challenge in the RS1 Porsche Cayman, stepping kind of back to Lamborghinis because Dylan Murcutt drove these cars a few years ago. I think he won the Gallardo class in 2015, which is the last time he was driving them. 25-year-old from Ankram, New York, and he is another driver in this Precision Performance Motorsports team, and he is looking to be one of the drivers that moves up with that team into the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. That is a long-term plan. Well, actually, a relatively short-term plan.
Happening soon. You heard it first here on our live coverage on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhaugh in the broadcast booth today, right at the finish line. Drivers right here at Mid-Ohio. Fabulous circuit, great weather, big crowd. What more could you want for? Screaming V10 Lamborghini engines in the mid-morning, sun shining as well, all absolutely fabulous. Life is good, particularly for Madison Snow, who comes across the line in front of us to finish another lap, but another fastest lap to the man chasing him down. They're trading 10ths of seconds. Loris Spinelli now to a 1:20.997, the only man to do a sub 1:21 lap. Clips the curb on the entrance to the keyhole, and he's brought that gap tantalizingly down to just a full second. Paris Mullins leads LB Cup in the number 88, another one of the white cars out there. He crosses the line in front of us now and heads towards turn 1. Big commitment corner, that left-hander. Can't quite see the apex when you turn in. What you often can't see until you've walked the track or driven it in something low slung like a Lamborghini is you're coming up over a slight rise there under the bridge, and you can't actually see the clipping point at the apex, the pointy bit of the corner, and you certainly can't see your exit there as you're coming in. You have to trust that the track hasn't moved since the last time you came round, which it generally hasn't.
What we can see also at the moment is shadows for the first
it's fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody's turned on the bright yellow
this
thing.
morning. It's beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous morning at the moment. Hopefully it'll stay this way for the remainder of the day.
So under a second now as they come across the line, and under 10 minutes to go. The battle for the lead. One Pro-Am. Madison Snow leads by just half a second. That's another great lap from Spinelli. And the middle sector is where he made the time up, 4/10 in that middle sector, and that's the difference at the moment. So Spinelli has saved his Pirelli tyres, question mark. Is there something left to fight with? What's Madison Snow got in terms of the car that's underneath him at the moment? Very few setup details that you can change on these spec cars. Tyre pressures being one of them, but the real challenge for the engineers is what you can give the guys at the end if they need to fight. Remember, these cars started with a very full fuel tank to take them all the way through the 50 minutes. They have the same Pirelli racing rubber on them that they started the race. No tyre changes in the middle, just driver changes for those who are two driver teams. And so there is an element of endurance driving, particularly for the first driver here. You want to hand over the car to your teammate and give him something to fight with later in the race.
You're absolutely right, and again, part of that development team theme here. Lamborghini wants drivers to move up from this into the GT3 car, into the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and that is what the PPM team is doing. That's kind of what Change Racing did as well, and certainly it is a stepping stone. And having the two driver combinations, not only do you get to share the car with somebody else, so you have to compromise perhaps on the setup, you also have to practice all your driver changes too, which is what you're going to have to do in real endurance racing.
You make a very good point there, Jeremy, because although there is a pit stop time that they have to adhere to, they can't go underneath it, it's not that generous. And if you start messing about with the driver changes and not getting it done and twisting your belts or sitting on one of the lap straps, then it's going to cost you time, and time spent in the pits that you don't have to be is distance out on the circuit. And you've made a very good point there about people working together. And there's a decent little battle shaping up for second and third in Pro, which is third and fourth overall. Carol Baz has just turned his fastest lap of the race, and he needs to, because Shinji Mishimi is closing in on him. It's under 2 seconds now, and there was 3/10 of that coming out the last lap. 79 and 46 starting to come together. I'll keep an eye on the timing screen for that as the lead battle goes across the line and back towards turn one. The white Lamborghini Huracan, number 29, helped out by the Charlotte dealership of Lamborghini, is leading. The lurid green, very menacing looking with the bright orange decals around the headlamps, is in second and closes right up under the rear wing as once again in the keyhole, Madison Snow does that long outside, almost NASCAR style line where he takes the car in hot, pinches the corner on the exit, but he's taking a huge amount of pace down the back straight. The problem for him is, if Spinelli can get close enough, there's a big gap to the inside, to Madison's right-hand side, in the middle of the keyhole, and it's certainly big enough to get a Lamborghini Huracan down. And I just wonder if Madison's beginning now to feel the heat, literally and metaphorically, from behind, and though that heat is going into the Pirelli tyres a little bit too much. Looks like he's getting a little bit grip limited as he brakes and accelerates out of corners.
Yeah, I think just Madison Snow is just driving really smart. He's making sure he gets that exit onto the back straight with only just 5.5 minutes remaining in this race. He wants to make sure that he gets a good launch onto the back straight, and that is going to make sure that Yeah, there's pretty much no way for Loris Spinelli, even though he might have a fractionally faster car, and I mean fractionally, then, you know, he's looking good. And Madison, of course, had a massive amount of experience. He locks up the brakes there and slides rather wider than he had anticipated, but he does keep it under control. And again, he makes a good exit to that corner. It's the exit that's much more important to him than the entrance.
He's effectively making the keyhole turn two turns.
Very much
he goes
so.
into the
Yes.
first apex and then lets the car drift wide. So he's not doing all of his braking coming up the hill. Now, that's very smart, but it's also very dangerous, because as you crest the top of the hill there's a change in surface, and you'll see that darker area used to be concrete, now high grip asphalt, but it does flatten off there, and the camber there changes. So a slight mistake there, and he goes another half a car wide, and that will be too wide for him to drag it back to the second apex, the exit apex, where he can get the power on nice and early. And what he's trying to do there, Jeremy, is straighten the car up as early as possible to punch down the back straight into four. I think it's smart driving,
exactly right.
but what it does do, it shows the confidence that he's got, because a tiny mistake there, and he will lose first position.
Indeed so, and talking of losing positions, Carol Bass hasn't done yet, but he's now got Shinya Michimi right with him. That battle for third and fourth is really together, and Eduardo Piscopo in car number 50 has moved ahead of Ryan Hardwick for fifth place overall.
That was a much better entry to the corner at turn two from the leading white Lamborghini in the hands of Madison Snow. So he's braking hard, the front of the Lamborghini goes down, almost kisses the ground, and then he lets the brake off and rolls it through the first part of the hairpin right-hander at the top of the hill. Then he balances the car back up again and gets on the power early. Meantime, behind the two leaders, oh, there's a touch coming down into turn number 4, and the 46 is down the inside. That is the battle that Jeremy was talking about. Mishimi's gone through. It was stout defence from the Polish driver Karol Baz in the 79, but he could not keep Shinji Mishimi, champion here in this series a couple of years ago behind. That's a new second place in the pro category and third on the overall podium as the leaders come round to start another lap. I think they'll get one more after this. It should be white flag, not this time, Jeremy, but next time around.
Yeah, yes, well, possibly. It's going to be really tight.
Yes,
actually.
It is actually. I've just said that.
21-second lap. They might get 2 more laps in here, and certainly for Madison, no, I'm sure he would like there to be just more one. But it's a great lap there by Madison, so inched out just a little bit. But is Loris Spinelli just dropping back a little bit, just to give him a little bit false sense of security? We will see.
Well, Madison getting the car squirrely and sliding around under braking again. The brake discs on the front of these cars are bright red, visible even in the daylight. They're getting a good workout here. ABS on these cars will help the drivers. You can hold that brake pedal all the way to the apex, trail braking into the corner, and that's what Madison's trying to do. And the red brake discs on his car are as red as anybody else's and redder than most. He's worked those front brakes very hard indeed on the 29 Change Racing Lamborghini. Corey Lewis did a great job at the start of the race. Now, where we are, we can see the starter stand, and the starters have got their binoculars out to see how far round the leaders are. The lap time is about 1:21, 1:22, and it's going to be very tight indeed as to whether this is the white flag or next time around. There's just under. They're going to get one more. Yeah. They're going to get one more, and Madison Snow is going to have to defend again for not just the 2.25 miles he was expecting, but fully 5 miles from when he crossed the line.
Good stuff. So the 22-year-old Madison Snow, former winner of the Porsche GT3 Cup Series, also race winner and actually championship leader in this year's IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship for Lamborghini and Paul Miller Racing in the GTD category, out in front of this race. He's already won a couple of Lamborghini Super Trofeo races. The last of them, though, came at Sebring back in 2015, so 3 years ago for Madison Snow at the wheel of car number 29.
Before this gets all exciting again, because you can never write the headlines before we get to the checkered flag in this series, a quick word for Ryan Hardwick. He's just put his fastest lap of the race in, and he needed to stay ahead of Damien Oakey, and he stretched that gap now in the battle for AM honours. 6th and 7th overall, but 1st and 2nd in AM. That's now 7 seconds between those guys. It's still Paris Mullins leading in the 88 in LB Cup, and of course Pro-Am is being led by Loris Benetti, who's in 2nd position. Pro being led by our leader overall, Madison Snow, and they are coming now to the white flag. Yeah,
on this lap, actually, Madison Snow edged out a little bit. I'm super impressed with Ryan Hardwick, setting that fastest lap at 1:22.2. That's only about a second away from these guys who have a lot more racing experience. Ryan would have been eligible to remain in LB Cup this season. That last year was his very first season of racing. He elected to move on up into the AM class, and what a drive this has been today.
Yeah, he's going to finish in the top half dozen overall. Very, very impressed by that. Less than 2 miles remain of the 2nd round of the 2018 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, one of the IMSA Development Series. And the big crowd here at the Sports Car Festival that IMSA have put on here at Mid-Ohio are enjoying this run to the line. It's been a great race, an assault to the senses, both visually and orally as well. The sound of these Lamborghinis is absolutely cracking, and Madison Snow hasn't got much left in the rear Pirellis. He's using all of it, sliding around. He's not going to give absolutely any opportunity for Loris Spinelli, who closes right up at the braking. That's going to be a short dash to the line. Can afford no wheel spin out of here. Madison Snow just takes it on the line. Beautifully judged race by the 2019 Change Racing. Corey Lewis did the opening stint and was absolutely impeccable early on. Pro-Am won by Spinelli in the 71, with JC Perez doing the opening stint. AM will be Ryan Hardwick, who drove solo, and Paris Mullins will take LB Cup with Mark Proto. A fantastic run for all of those drivers in the sunshine here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and I can't wait for the rest of the season. Oh, Jeremy.
That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? And what a great weekend for Change Racing. A double victory here for Madison Snow and for Corey Lewis. But boy, they had to work hard for it on both days. Yesterday, he took the lead after making contact with the rear of the race leader. That was JC Perez in car number 71. JC Perez, the AM of the Pro-Am lineup there, along with Loris Spinelli. But that car was certainly super fast today as well. Loris Spinelli did come away with another fastest lap. Has to make do with 2nd place overall, but it is a Pro-Am win for Loris Spinelli and for JC Perez, and that's certainly a really good comeback after the disappointment of yesterday, having had that puncture. He was hit from behind by Corey Lewis, picked up a puncture, and then some damage to the suspension as well when he was turfed off the road inadvertently by Stephen McAleer down at turn 9. So a really good comeback for car number 71 and that P1 Motorsport team.
Well, the headlines written by the number 29 Corey Lewis and Madison Snow Change Racing outfits, which is supported by the Lamborghini dealers of the Carolinas. But there will be some head scratching at Wayne Taylor Racing. 4 cars over the weekend, all 4 of their cars over the weekend losing a rear wheel. And the number 1 car withdrawn today, did not have the problem today, had it yesterday. The other 3 cars had it today. And the inquest will be going on deep into the evening. Jeremy Shaw was alongside me, John Hindhaugh, in the IMSA Radio broadcast booth. I hope you've enjoyed the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series from Mid-Ohio. Make sure you tune in to our live, unblocked and uninterrupted coverage throughout the rest of the IMSA season. Bye-bye.